Hi, I'm Squirrel from RaceThis.com. Welcome to Keyboard Commandos. We're launching a brand new web series about the local car and racing scene of the Mountain Empire. Anyone familiar with the Mountain Empire knows about its rich history in storytelling, music, and racing. Hot rodding has been around since the birth of cars. It really became popular after World War II when adrenaline junkies came home from the war. It was a fairly simple concept. Big motor, little car, it goes fast. People think it started in Southern California, but in reality, it was all over the country. The reason it was popular in California, so people thought, was because of Hollywood was right there to film it all. We had our own version of hot rodding here. It was called bootlegging. The guys wanted to have a fast car to get away from the law, which eventually evolved into NASCAR. Out there, they had the NHRA. But some of the guys out here didn't like it as well, so we formed the IHRA with Larry Carrier and a few other guys. In the 50s, people were racing on the streets. They met downtown, talked a little smack, they got a race going, and they'd go out on some country road in the backwoods and get it done. It was dangerous. A lot of people lost their lives. In the 60s, drag racing became more popular. Tracks started springing up everywhere. Guys took it a little more serious, and they got off the streets. Manufacturers took notice. They started making special lightweight cars with aluminum front fenders and hoods. Bigger names started popping up like Sox and Martin and Don Garland. The late 60s brought about iconic muscle cars such as the Challenger, the Mustang, and the Camaro, which are still popular today. In the 70s, racing was still progressing quite well. Even people like Cheryl Greer, the father of the modern-day funny car, could go out and make a name for himself. In the late 70s, hot rodding was dealt quite a blow when manufacturers were forced to sacrifice horsepower in favor of producing cars with stricter emission standards. In the 80s, Ford decided to put an emphasis on performance again with the Fox body Mustang. This led GM to build a better Z28 and cars like the Grand National. In the late 80s, with access to these faster cars, a resurgence in street racing sprang up. With the NHRA not meeting the needs of these new racers, the outlaw racing was born. In its early days, outlaw racing was still done on the streets in places like Philadelphia, Southern California, Florida, and even our nation's capital with the iconic V Street. Shout out. With the need to get these guys off the streets, sanctioning bodies such as the NMCA for the muscle car guys and NOPI for the import guys led to greater division in the community when we had Fun Ford weekends and the Super Chevy show springing up. In the late 90s, the import scene grew, with parts being more readily available, and the scene was just huge. This caught Hollywood's attention again with movies like The Fast and the Furious that came out in the early 2000s. That movie completely screwed up street racing for guys like me. It became a scenester thing. Everybody wanted to be out there, everybody wanted to hang out, cruise around, show off their little riced out cars. And the scene completely was screwed up. It ruined it. In the 2000s, with Hollywood wanting to cash in more on the lifestyle, then we came out with shows that showed the good and the bad side of it. We had shows like Pimp My Ride, which how many TVs do you need in a Festiva? We had shows like Overhauling, which actually showed some craftsmanship, and a decent car came out. And then that evolved into what we know as Pinks, which to me that's how often can I show off my arms because I'm a gay bald bastard. I don't know. But anyway, that's where we are today. And that's what we're here to do at RaceThis.com. Let's break with the admin on location.
Thanks, Squirrel. And we're here live in Irwin, Tennessee. Before I move on, I just want to correct you a little bit. I heard you mention Fun Ford and Super Chevy, but that wasn't the 90s. That was, I believe, back in the 80s. That was a little bit before the NMC and that. But we'll talk about that in a later blog episode. Right now, let's talk a little bit about what you touched on with the exploitation and where racing's come to and how we got here and the Fast and Furious and Hollywood and reality TV shows and all that. Well, you know, racing and going pro isn't about getting Nat Geo to come out and do a documentary on your street racing in Compton. I've got respect for those boys. They're trying and whatnot, but that's far from what pro is. If you want pro, you need to come here because we don't have the option of having a little track to deal with. We have one spot that we know is the best spot, and we're not going to let somebody else take that away from us just because they're out in California and have better networking. We have no choice but to go up head-to-head against the top guys because our track, our spot, it's Bristol. And yeah, when we go in, we roll in with street cars and we want to do a street car race. But we have to go head to head against NASCAR, NHRA, ADRL, the biggest dogs there are. And that's what's tough. Trying to figure out how to bring sponsorship money to the little racers, trying to figure out how to get the guy to afford it. Right now, most of the guys in our area have problems with transportation, how can get there. They've got cars, but trying to get to races can be expensive for the racer. Now you've got guys that work in shops just like this all around the country. They're turning wrenches through the week so they can try to do a little bit of racing on the weekend. And that would be semi-pro. They're in the automotive technician or profession. They're getting paid, but it's still a difference between the guys that's just a pro racer. And you've got guys that show up here at our track. They'll be here this week. There'll be 180,000 people show up, and there'll be drivers that are getting millions upon millions of dollars. Can the average person relate to any of those guys? No. The groom driver has gotten away from the bootlegger heritage that was NASCAR. Now you've got 18-year-olds looking for development deals. Maybe it has a little bit to do with earning your ranks in racing. And we've gave away the control of our sport to marketing guys. Some of us have to take back some of that control. We have to control who puts the image out about drag racing, and that's what we're going to try to do. We want to spotlight what's happening in the local area, and we want to talk a little bit about the national scene. With the national scene, when you live someplace that's not Cecil County and it's not Florida or Texas, and you don't have a big scene, there's hubs via the internet. Hubs like LS1 Tech, hubs like the Ham, Yellow Bullet, Corvette forums, S197. It doesn't matter. It basically suits your taste and style. On the local forum, I can get blasted because I'm trying to make this video, because I've done things, and I've got haters that like to bash me for making an attempt. But that's all right, because while they're bashing on me, they're sitting on the couch. We've got guys in our region. We've got another local forum just north of us that I've got a gentleman who's putting on a little race, and I wish him the best of luck. But he burst onto the scene, and his idea to get attention was to badmouth everybody, to talk down to them, to demean them. And that just doesn't play well here either, because we still believe in sportsmanship. If you're going to race, you want a handshake. So when it comes to race and it comes to what we've got here, we believe we can give you a good image and a good look at what it's like from the Joes to the pros. Everything from the guy with the working garage like this to the NASCAR guys rolling in with their mega mini cities via race car haulers. When Alan Abbey comes to Bristol to race, he brings 5 tractor trailers. The average racer can't relate to that kind of money. Let's get back to the sport. Let's get back to the core. Let's get back to the people that made it what it was. Times used to be, if you want to learn how to go fast, you kept your mouth shut, you found out who was at the track, you found out who would let you hang around, you paid attention. Nowadays, anybody with a keyboard thinks they can be a superstar with racing. You've got the guys with the Hondas, and I'm not hating on the import guys, because we've got a few here that will actually put up the numbers. But for the most part, a kid puts a fart can on his car and a couple of stickers and he thinks it's a race car. Far from it. When they show up at the track, that's when they prove whether they can or they can't. We've got guys that have street cars. We've got guys that have outlaw cars. They're all trying to do the same thing. They want to enjoy themselves. But when it comes to going pro, like I said, you've got to compete against the pros. Now, how are you going to do that? It's going to take someone who has experience, and you have to understand that racing is a business. It's a $160 billion a year industry, and how much of that pie is drag racing getting? I think that part of it, the problem is the fragmentation that you touched on, Squirrel. Through the 90s, we've seen factions of racers break up. Whether you were running a Chevy, you could race a Chevy show, you could race a Ford at the Fun Ford weekends. Then, if you had a muscle car, if you had an import, everybody wanted to break up. Well, that's not how it was in the 50s. In the 50s, it was just show up in town, didn't matter what you got, that's who you had to compete against. And that's how it really is here today. Because it doesn't matter what you've got. You're not going to a Honda event every weekend. If you live here, you're going to come out to the track and race with us. And whether you've got a Honda or a Corvette, you're going to race on the same night all together. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Everybody coming together and knowing where they're at on the ladder. See, we've got a little phrase we like to call the speed shark. The speed shark, there's one in every town. That's the guy that can turn all his own wrenches, that knows how to tune his own car. He doesn't have to look for anybody. He's usually a struggling racer, got his own shop, and he's making his way without asking for anybody. You know, then you've got the guys that can buy their cars, and there's nothing wrong with that. If a man can go out and purchase a car and come and race, bring it on. We enjoy everybody that comes to the racetrack. But in the world of the internet, the guy with the Honda fart can thinks he can talk trash to the Speed Shark, and that just doesn't work, because if they actually show up at the track, they're going to get stomped on. They're going to get drugged down the track, and everybody knows it. But the anonymity of the internet allows that. We want to bring back some of the respect. We want to bring back some of the camaraderie. If you want to come down and race with us, or if you're in the Mountain Empire, just know that all you got to do is come up and introduce yourself and come and enjoy times with us. We're here to have fun. We're here to shake your hands. And when it comes to the internet, we're gonna spotlight some of it. That's why we're Keyboard Commandos. We're going to talk about the guys that are out there displaying themselves in ways they shouldn't. We've got Yellow Bullet. Is a huge hub for drag racing, and I greatly appreciate what those guys up there have done, what Monty's done. But I get kicked all the time because I've got a little web forum here. I serve the Bristol area, but it's not about having a forum. It's just about communication and bringing the racers together. What goes on in Maryland has no effect on my daily life. What goes on in here has no effect on their daily life. But if we can bring it all together, and we can bring all the racers back together, we can do something as a group. And that's what we're going to attempt to do. We're going to show people how we're coming together as a community here in Bristol, here in the Mountain Empire, in Kentucky, in Virginia, in North Carolina, in Tennessee. And we're going to put the pressure back on to make our voices heard, to know that we can compete with those big guys. What we do, it's entertainment. And 3 hours with us is just as exciting as 3 hours with them. It just depends on getting the word out to them. So we're going to take this blog, and we're going to make it go to the local people, and we're going to spotlight racers, we're going to spotlight events, things that people in the Mountain Empire can do, and then we're going to touch a little bit on some national events. But at this point, that's not really a main concern because of budget. We still can't afford to get down to the racetrack just like everybody else. We have to budget our money. So we'll do what we can. We'll try to make this project grow, and we're going to try to show the boys out in LA what it takes to go pro. In the meantime, no, we're not traveling out to you. If you want to come out here, come on out. On that note, just so you know that I'm not bullshitting you, and you know, when we do this blog, there's going to be a lot of people that think we're bullshitting them. But we're going to prove everything we say. We're going to prove everything from our experience with MTV and the Hollywood industry, and how we learned everything, all these inside facts that we know, the secrets of NASCAR and the marketing and the business of racing. And in the meantime, we'd like to show you that it is all for real, and we've got cars that will win on TV. Some of you might recognize this one. This car won Pinks. That's right, this is the car that took Barney's Falcon. Now, if the boys in LA got nothing better to do, and you got the players and you got the money, well, like we said, we're not traveling to Compton. But if you want a safe spot where the cops will block for you, you won't get in any trouble, and it's one of the baddest spots on the planet, come on out, buddy. We'll get you a race. We'll see you on the next episode. Back to you.
Well, that was weird. Thank you for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed our brief history on hot rodding, but we want to show you where it's going, both on a local and national level. We want to show you the backyard guys, and we want to show you the heavy hitters. So be sure to add our YouTube channel and join us at Keyboard Commandos for our next episode. Anyone familiar with the Mountain Empire knows about its rich history in racing, storytelling, and music. Today we're going to talk a little bit about... Anyone familiar with the Mountain Empire knows about its rich history in racing, storytelling, and hookers. Oh, easy. Easy. There's mechanics in here.
Take 5.
Hi, I'm... Okay. Did I start over? This sucks, man.
Take 7.
Oh, man, I quit.
Teleprompters.
still. Own version. It was called IRHA. Guys still drove their own cars to the trailer with their trucks. They still did, and people were street racing and just acting stupid. I was there. It sucked. We got the movie Fast and the Furious, which completely screwed street racing up for guys like me, and it really sucked, and I hate them. So and die, in that order.